What it do, everybody? It's your boy Cream Crowder checking back in with another edition of history that I learned and researched this week. For those who do not know, I'm actually a grad student, just learning and reading. And one thing that has been so inspirational to me is to teach the telling and sharing the information. One thing that I went over this week is about Jackson Ward and Richmond, Virginia. What is Jackson Ward? Jackson Ward was a community of foundation on Black Americans that began to flourish post the Civil War. During the Reconstruction era, Jackson Ward in Richmond began to get his own light and began to start flourishing. The reason why this began to grow so much because actually when Black Americans started to foundation and develop their own towns, this area, and specifically a part of town, began to get known for its nightlife, its community, and its outreach programs. Jackson Ward in Richmond, Virginia was a hotspot for African Americans around this time. The reason why we wanted to get a place at that specific location is kind of ironically because that was the head place of the Confederacy. So the blacks in that time frame and that mind knew they wanted to reclaim and change and white and blackwash some of that history and remove some of that stench that was in there because of the Ku Klux Klan's headquarters. The one of the main factors learning about Jackson Ward that we all should know about is about the first woman banker ever named Maggie Lena Walker. Queen Walker was such a big deal because she founded the Consolidated Bank and Trust, which is one of the oldest surviving Black bank branches in the U.S. I'm going to drop that name again. The Black Bank and Trust is one of the oldest surviving Black banks ever established in the U.S. and it started early in the 1920s. Who knew? Around that same time when the Depression happened. The reason why this was such a big deal because they had branches all over to service foundational Black Americans within that 804, 757, and that DC area code. Because around that's when the Great Migration started to happen. So you had a lot of blacks commuting or moving northern to escape and remove away from that slavery outcome because the South really got poor around that time. And the jobs and the manual labor started to go down. So a lot of the sharecroppers began to move northern to seek career and began opportunities for their families. It was another big fixture I looked up in Jackson Ward, which is Billy Bojangle Robinson. He was actually born in Jackson Ward. The reason why he was such a popular gentleman at this time, his dance moves and his articulation with choreographing changed the game forever when it came to the music scene. Billy Bo Jackson is legendary for his acts, who he trained and who he worked with. I'm going to tell you, the guy's resume is incredible. They actually have a statue of Billy Bo Jackson in the Jackson Ward area to this day. So if you're in that location, please send some photos, some information about him. I think it's incredible they landmarked him like that. One thing I also wanted to let them know, due to Jackson at that time, it began to be known as Harlem of the South. Now, that's a big claim and acclamation that they made at Harlem of the South, because, you know, Harlem had a reputation of a great nightlife, a great scene. And for Richmond, Virginia to have that same statue, that's a big claim. The one thing I wanted them to let them know around that Jackson really actually started the whole having a club night clean / lane. I never thought about it like that. At first, it used to be kind of separate, but the blacks of that time began to implement, hey, we'll have the dinner around this time, playing the live music in the later hours to get that younger crowd to immerse in that. They were actually one of the founders and the ones responsible for making that such a big deal. That's actually a great historical fact that I always wondered, especially living in the Houston area, because most of the places you go to around here have that same setup. And we all got it accredited to Jackson Ward in Richmond, Virginia. If it wasn't for those gentlemen and ladies at that time implementing that, we probably would have still had it separate. But around this time, it's still a huge deal. Food with loud music in the club scene towards the end. That way they ride all through. An incredible idea. One thing that I also want to know about this time is that they also had one of the second huge festivals of that area. The street festivals and the holiday weekends was a staple in the Jackson Ward community. Now, this is the one thing I'm really kind of ashamed about that still isn't going strongly into this time of day. But that is something they were known for and predominantly had a bragging right to execute and talk about. Jackson Ward was huge in the celebration festivals and Black heritage and Black culture. We are the culture. When you look at it, such a phenomenal things that they did. Another thing that really caught my eye about it, which made the Jackson Ward area go down a little bit, was something called Urban Renewal Program. What is Urban Renewal? Urban Renewal, I will describe later in the video coming up. But one thing that was really predominant that they did, because the area was so flourishing and so good in that area, they actually built the highway, the main highway that goes from that area all the way to Florida, right through the Jackson Ward area. What highway am I speaking of? I-95. So predominantly, I-95 was built to go right through that flourishing black community to destroy that economy. That was one of the biggest ventures that was built right over top of it to just catastrophic. And the blacks had no understanding or could not dispute with the lawmakers at that time. That was when you started to see that the economics of the area started to go down a lot when they built a massive highway through there and through the sections of the area. After that time, when the urban renewal hit the Jackson Ward area, the one thing that we began to notice too is we began to see a lot of other stadiums and other things that was built on the black property. The reason why that's so sad, because you see a reoccurring theme in parts of history that we don't discuss or we don't talk about being discussed all the time. Jackson Ward was a thriving economy, a huge area, and a huge culture building that was destroyed by urban renewal that kind of decentralized the area. Kind of a sad part of our history, but it is our history that we all must know about, discuss, and talk. I think it's incredible that I got my sources from the Digital Library at VCU, also the History Network, and I also did some Google Scholar sources to figure out and filter what was going on. Again, Billy Bones Robinson and Queen Walker are some of the founding scholars in the Jackson Ward area in Richmond. I would like anybody that's been in Richmond to please snap some photos so I can see them, because I think it's an incredible piece of history and what it looks like. And I'm going to tell you again, I do love this part of the side. I want y'all to know I'm checking in again. King Crowd, I'm checking out. If you have anything else you want to like, comment, and subscribe to me, please do. And I'll go ahead and chime into it as soon as I can. I'll see y'all again in 7 days to check back in. Peace.